Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of our attendees tuning in from around the world. Today's broadcast of Invisible Women in Sport is a part of our WISE series. WISE stands for Women of Influence in Sport and Education. This broadcast is an Institute for Sport and Social Justice production, and I'm your producer, Garnett Overby III. All guests will be muted during this production, but I encourage you to use the chat feature to ask a question or leave a comment. We will reserve time at the end to answer your questions. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our host, Taylor Middleton.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 15 of Invisible Women in Sport. I am your host, Taylor Middleton, and today I am joined with Ashley Jocelyn, the Chief of Staff at Louisiana Tech University. How are you doing today, Ashley?
I'm doing great. Super excited.
Well, like I said previously, we always do a nice little icebreaker. So, of course, we're going to start off with rapid fire for this episode. It's going to be 30 seconds. Try to make it short and fun. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer and then we can get started. I try to come up with some like little thinking questions.
Ooh, okay. Keep me on my toes.
All right. So ready? 3, 2, 1. Favorite sport to watch?
Track and field.
400 or 200 meter dash?
200, easy.
Best piece of advice you have been given?
To live in the now.
Okay, and then one goal before the end of the year.
Just to get through football season seamlessly.
7 seconds to spare.
Let's go.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So of course, like any other guest, I always ask what drew you into sports. I know you previously were a track and field athlete, but in our conversation, you talked about how you're a little bit all over the place in high school. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so I was pretty active all of my life. So I played multiple sports in high school and middle school. I did track, volleyball, soccer, like football even. So I was pretty active. Track and field just stuck, and I was able to go get a track scholarship at the University of Central Florida, which I spent 5 years there from 2012 to 17, and that basically just made me fall more in love with athletics and where it can take me and how it impacts other people.
So then can you talk about your experience being a track and field athlete there? Ashley might not say it, but she holds 3 records at UCF. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Being a track and field student athlete at UCF definitely shaped me into the person that I am today, because if you met me freshman year and like meet me now, they're 2 different people. It brought confidence in me. I got to meet amazing friends and amazing people that champion me on a day-to-day basis. It also showed me like how impactful sports in general can be in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, I ran, but I also was in the community. I was also impacting other people on a day-to-day basis. So I think being a runner at UCF definitely was a blessing in disguise. Although I was there for my education, I learned so many different lessons, and I had so many different blessings that came out of it.
So can you tell us what your most memorable moment was being a track athlete?
Yes. So my last year as a track and field athlete, I ran the most dreadful 400 in the indoor conference meet. Like, it was terrible. I didn't even make it back to finals. I was crying, bawling my eyes out. I was like, this is the end of the world for the most part. And it came down to the 4x4 where we could have ended up winning the championship. And I had to like gather myself. My coach was like, yeah, you have 5 minutes, get it together. We have to win this in order to win championships and become conference champs. So I had to buckle up my shoes and like tie my shoes and make sure I was good to go, because my team was depending on me at the end of the day. So that definitely taught me like life is bigger than me, and we end up winning. So
yeah. I think that's definitely like the misconception of track too, because it's such an individual sport, but it's like when it comes down to conference, everybody's got to score points so people can win. Yeah. So it's like short-term memory. That's what my coach always used to tell me.
Yeah, definitely had to like get it together quickly.
No, I've been there with the bawling your eyes out. I told you the other day, Sophomore year, outdoor season, crying behind a building. It was not good. I was on the phone with my mom for like 20 minutes and she was like, Taylor, just go get up, go to the hotel and go to sleep. And we're going to start over the next day. So
Coach literally told me you have 2 minutes, get on the line, get it done.
Man, so then even in that time, you talked about, you know, how UCF shaped you being more confident into who you are today. Can you talk about the experience you had becoming a GA with women's basketball and soccer?
Yes. So during my time at UCF, I entered my master's program and I was looking for a graduate assistant program, but I knew I wanted to stay in athletics and I wanted to learn more about different sports. So being the academic advisor, I didn't know anything about academic advising prior to this, but it definitely was a learning experience and stretched me in different avenues that I knew I probably should be in. It pushed me out of my comfort zone for the most part. I got to learn different sports like women's basketball, how they functioned and how women's soccer functioned, because I was solely track and field and that was like my world the whole time. But this definitely taught me how to work with people, because we have 30 odd people that on different teams that I had to like cater to and make sure that they are getting their stuff done accordingly. It taught me a whole lot of things about time management and how to like boss up and be like an authoritative person, if that makes sense. Because if you know me, I'm super reserved and like timid and shy. So like this gave me the opportunity to like step up and be the person that I needed to be so that I can lead the younger student athletes into greatness for the most part. Because at the end of the day, their academics is how they got to keep their scholarship. So if they didn't get to succeed in that, then that ultimately falls on me. And I didn't want to do a disservice to them. So yeah, that experience was amazing for me too, because it taught me a lot about myself and how I worked with people.
And you mentioned how you were doing that when you were entering into your master's program. And we kind of talked about how because of your connection with Bree and Crystal, some of us thought that you were in the boss, but you were not. You were actually getting your master's in public administration and nonprofit management. So can you talk about what your future plans were for those degrees?
Yes. So undergrad, just a backstory. Undergrad, I did my concentration in the sports business minor, which gave me a whole lot of insight on sports in general and how the administration part of that works. So I figured in my mind, because I wanted to work in more of like NBA cares or like the community relations parts of like different organizations. So I was thinking like, hey, if I get a sports admin and public admin and nonprofit management degree, then I would like merge together and make like all I needed to know, sports and like government wise. So that was my whole thought process about that. I couldn't enter DeVos though, because I was still running while I was getting my master's. So I couldn't do both of them. But it ended up working out great because I learned a whole lot from that major too. So it worked out at the end.
Gotcha. So then would you say that there was any specific nonprofit that you wanted to work for when you were transitioning out of grad school, or just like anywhere?
I truly wasn't picky. I just wanted to be an impact on those around me. I have a passion for like kids. So I worked with like the YMCA for a little bit. I worked for Boys and Girls Club. So anything that was like geared towards children or that was uplifting children in the long run, I would want to work with them too.
Okay.
But I didn't have anything specific. I didn't have like a goal nonprofit that I wanted to work with.
Just flexible, as they're telling us to be in our transitions out. And even talking about that, did you struggle at all with your transition coming out of grad school into trying to find a full-time position?
Yes. Finding a job is a full-time job. I was struggling in the beginning. I was very like putting pressure on myself because the months were coming and I didn't have any leads. But my network definitely works for me. Knowing Bree, she's on the call right now. She hit me up one day and was like, hey, how do you feel about coming to Mississippi State? We just opened up a new job. It's a fellowship. I know it's not a full-time job, but it's a fellowship and you'll learn so much from this. And it's definitely you in a job description, like it's social media and community service. So you should try doing that. So I shot my shot and I ended up getting the job because they seen the value in me and how I can add value into their organization. So it ended up working like that because I had a good network, but in the beginning it was very hard. Not gonna lie.
So then can you talk to us about your position in student athlete development at Mississippi State and kind of like your duties while being there?
Yes, like I mentioned before, I was a fellow there, so it was on a time constraint. So I had a year to figure out to make the job what it was because it was new. So I got to set the standard. The job description gave me the basis, but ultimately it was all as duties as assigned for the most part. But I was in charge of social media, our social media pages. So like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, making sure everyone knows our story. We are based off 4 pillars: community service, professional development, personal development, and career development. So I had to tell our story through our department, through our student athletes, so that other people know what we're doing and our student athletes know that what we're doing for them too. And I also did community service events for them and brought them into the communities that serves them to serve them back, if that makes sense, because ultimately their fans are the ones that are coming to see them. So if they can serve them in return, then it works out. It's a balance. While I was at state, I got to do a whole lot of creative events for them. I did like the Klanga Christmas, which was like a Christmas initiative. I got to take them to the Delta, which was in the rural parts of Mississippi for a 2-day trip. And I got to like do that whole planning by myself. So hotels, making sure it was safe, making sure all these organizations were legit, because nowadays you don't know. But I definitely thought that position was like made for me because I got to be creative, but also there was kind of structure with it too.
Gotcha. So was there anything that you took from being a student athlete and applied that to being at your position at Mississippi State, or that resonated with you with the other athletes?
Yes, I think being a student athlete definitely taught me time management and discipline. Like once I had my mindset on something, it was going to be executed, regardless whether there was like obstacles to jump over or things didn't fall through the way that I wanted to. It gave me resilience in that workplace. And I think that's where I added value the most within state. Since this was new, like a lot of people didn't know what to expect, but I wanted to like put the bar high enough so like the next person can ultimately reach that, and our department could be better for within the SEC and as a general department in general. So
gotcha. So then how was that transition going from student athlete development to your role now as chief of staff at Louisiana Tech?
I think it was definitely an adjustment because student athlete development is so central. Like I'm going for the student athletes, and I know my job duties off the rip, like social media and community service, those are the things, and then the different pillars. But coming into administration, this is so broad in nature. Like it's the whole department, this external, internal, revenue stuff. Like there's just so many avenues that's within this position in itself that I can have touches on. So I just had to figure it out, if that makes sense. Like just dive in as much as I could and like learn as much as I could in a short amount of time so I can best add value to our department also. But it definitely was a learning curve, but it was fun learning too. And I truly never knew all these things were happening in the backgrounds of sports. I just thought like things happen as a student athlete, like, oh, our field's ready. That just happens. I didn't know there was a whole bunch of workers. Like it just didn't click that way. But seeing the ins and outs of like running a department, how decisions are made is definitely eye-opening and different from where I was before. And I truly appreciate that because it's more like a jack of all trades right now. I get to see all these things and how a department's supposed to be ran or how to better a department, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So seeing the background now of the other end being an administrator, what would you say would be like the biggest surprise that you had when you got in the position?
The biggest surprise, I just think just how much goes into the minutia of like running different things. Like it's football season now, like I didn't know how much goes into football games, just like one football game. Like it's a whole production. Like we have to include the community. We have to make sure fans are okay. We got to make sure the student athletes and staffs are okay. Like ticketing, all these things are like just the minutia of all the things I did. I truly is like beyond me on how much goes into like one game, and people take that for granted when they come into a game and like complain about the small things. But you see how much people love what they do and making sure that the production is like A1, like beautifully ran.
Yeah.
So I think that's what surprised me the most, is just like the ins and outs of all the athletic events and how they ran and how smoothly things happen, or you would never see if you're a regular fan or a regular like employee somewhere.
Yeah, I completely understand that. What was it, fall of my senior year, I decided to like be on the street team for the marketing department. And I remember like if there's a 12 o'clock game for football, we would have to be there at like 5 a.m. blowing up like all the bouncy houses, stuff for fan engagement. Then it's like, you got to make sure the band is on cue and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't ever want to do this again. But now I see how that all rolls and goes. And it's just a lot of factors that come into play. So I can only imagine what it's like being an administrator in that role.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to look at one of the timesheets from one of these events, and it's like a packet of things. And like somebody had to actually do it. This doesn't happen. Like somebody had to actually go in there and be like, minute by minute, this is what we're gonna do, and so that this production could look amazing. And I think that's so amazing, because you watch it all unfold and we're like, wow, our hard work actually like meant something.
Right. So then how would you say like now being in this role is different in the midst of transitioning over in the middle of COVID and not necessarily being able to be right in front of your student athletes anymore? How is that for you?
I think it's definitely interesting in how you build relationships, because now you have to be like super intentional, like, hey, I have to go out and meet them instead of them coming in, just to keep everyone safe. Because before, like anybody can just hop into your office and be like, hey, how you doing, and have a whole lot of conversations. But now you have to be more intentional on meeting them where they are. I think being an administrator, like just the ins and outs, you don't get as much time to go see the student athletes. You just have to be intentional on doing that. But as when I was in student athlete development, like that was our whole job, is to meet the student athletes and make sure we're building relationships. So it was a lot easier to do that. So like now I'm catching myself and like, hey, I have to go see practice. Even if I don't go down and talk to them, just seeing my presence there is like changed perspective of things also. So I think it's different, definitely with COVID being a factor, because just wanting to keep everyone safe, but creating the relationship should stay the same, and being intentional on doing that should be the same.
Well, it looks like Louisiana Tech is handling stuff very well. And something that we were kind of talking about the other day in our pre-meeting was how being at UCF, you were surrounded by a lot of people that look like you in higher spaces, and how that was very important to you. So can you talk about representation just in the workspace and what that means for you as a Black woman?
I definitely think representation is important, because me being a student athlete, our executive staff members, our SOD office director was a person of color. And that just showed me that these like job positions are just tangible. My AD now is a person of color too. And that just inspires me to reach new heights and break barriers that normally you probably think it wouldn't happen. But as a student athlete and seeing people in higher places, and it's our job too to meet them and see like, hey, we're still humans and we're cool, and you don't have to like switch up 24/7. Like I'm still human and I'm still in this position, and I'm here to help those see that this is tangible for themselves. I think UCF and here is doing a good job of trying to diversify like our staff and make sure representation is shown.
Gotcha. So then what would you say would be some skills that you've learned so far in your position now?
I think the biggest one is multitasking. And I think that's like a cliche thing, but like there's so many projects happening at once, and you have to have like attention to detail to all of them. It's not like, hey, this is what I'm focusing on this week, and then jumping off to something else. But it's very important. I think multitasking definitely was what I've learned so much, and keeping organized, because I also have to make sure that the AD is where he needs to be and that he has all the things that he needs too. So like multitasking and organization is definitely top two of what I've learned so far.
So then is there any projects that you have like that you're looking forward to in the upcoming year? Because I know you talked about getting through football season. So are there anything that you're trying to implement within the next year in your role?
Yes. So our department is huge on culture right now. So cultivating culture within our like employees, our staff, our teammates. So I am taking up the role to do employee engagement stuff. So making sure that people actually love coming to work, and it's not just work. Is work. We work hard, we also play hard. So just building out our employees and making sure that they feel valued in the workplace. I've done a couple of things so far. We played like softball and kickball and bowling tournaments, and getting people competitive as employees too, but making sure that they are enjoying their time here. So I think that's one of the biggest projects that I want. I want people to make sure that they're valued and that the culture here is illustrating that too.
Have there been like any challenges in any of your roles, like trying to cultivate that within the culture of the organization, or has it been like pretty smooth sailing for you?
No, I think people wanted more time to spend with different employees. We're so siloed in different departments. Like if I'm external, I'm only focusing on the people in external. If I'm in basketball, I'm only focusing on basketball. Like people are so siloed into their own departments that they don't get the chance to like mingle and see each other. So this gives opportunity for people to see other people in different departments and learn what they do and like value what they do too. So I think a lot of people are just open-minded, and like it was like a breath of fresh air for them. Like, hey, this is what we wanted. Like, I want to see more people. I want to have more fun in the workplace. So I don't think it was a challenge. More people probably like, oh, this is happening. This is good. So yeah.
No, that's definitely great, because even for my class compared to like Candace's class, we had everything online for like the first year. And I remember I was like, I'm ready to get in person. Like, I can't wait to see everybody. And then the first day of class happened and all these kids at UCF were just everywhere. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't mean it like this. Like, it was just everybody, every other corner. But then it was like by the next day, nobody was there. So I was just like, all right, well then I guess we're just gonna keep the ball rolling on that one.
It's got to find balance between the two.
Yeah, definitely understand like just seeing how COVID has just impacted like interacting with other people and then like wanting to have that, but then it's like everybody's been isolated for over a year, so none of us know how to, in a way.
Social skills probably are like out the window now because we haven't spoken to somebody in person for over a year. So building that back up is definitely a project.
Gotcha. So even with that, you are a young woman in this industry. So has the idea of ageism been a problem for you at all, or for just like transitioning through these different spaces?
Personally, I don't think so. I think I put more of that challenge on myself because I'm in my head about me being so young and being in the position that I am, because I go to meetings with exec staff often, and I'm in group chats with exec staff often, and I'm getting to see the ins and outs of the department. So me, in my head, I have to like get out of that I'm the youngest one in the room and act like I need to be in that room, if that makes sense. So I think it's more of a balance between, or a battle between me and myself, trying to figure out how to maneuver that. No one makes me feel younger in the room. It's me for the most part. So I don't think, me personally, no, it's me.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate you so much for being here. And I'm actually coming up on my last question. So for anybody in our audience, please use the chat feature to ask questions for the Q&A, who will be hosted by Candace for Ashley. So again, thank you so much for being here. And this will be my last question. So is there any advice that you could give to young women today looking to get into the sports industry?
Yes, I have two advice. My first one would be, your network is your net worth. for sure, hands down. And not even networking up per se, like seeing the president of a department or whatever, but networking laterally, networking down, because you never know, and creating like genuine relationships, not just like, hey, this person has this title, let me see if I can network with them. Like creating legitimately tangible like relationships with these people and genuine relationships with these people, because ultimately all the things that happens in my life is because I knew someone that knew me and that can vouch for me to get this job, or these jobs. So your network is your network. And this is coming from someone who don't speak in real life. So your network, like creating real relationships, is definitely crucial for your advancement within athletics, because it's such a small world in athletics. My second one is to bloom where you're planted, because a lot of us, we're young, we're thinking about what's next. You're not even enjoying where you are now. And this is where you prayed for, like 4 years ago, I prayed for this. So I have to enjoy what I prayed for now, instead of like, hey, what's next? I have to look forward. I'm not saying not to look forward, but like enjoy what you have now, bloom where you're planted, like do what you can now to be the best person that you are now. And that will ultimately help further your career, further you as a person. So those are my 2 tokens.
Well, thank you so much for that, Ashley. And I'm going to pass it off to Candace, who I will formally introduce, who will be your next host of our Zoomcast here in our next season. So I'm going to hand it off to Candace for our Q&A.
So first, I'd like to say thank you, Ashley. That was great. And I would like to jumpstart Q&A actually with my own question for you. Throughout your podcast episode, you mentioned value a lot.
Yep.
So in your role now at LA Tech, how do you continue to increase your value for your team and for your staff?
So the way that I increase my value at La Tech, I definitely am a creative person, so I want to tap into that right now. We are definitely work hard here, and a lot of people are all hands on deck. So anything that I can do, I'm always giving my help. Like I'm a helper by nature, and I'm like, hey, if this department needs help, let me help you. If you need help, let me help you. So that's how I add value, and that ultimately helps me too, because I'm learning different avenues within the athletic department. So just being here for people when they need, I think that's where I add value the most. I love seeing people be their best selves and like see the product of people's like job come to fruition. So if I can help in any way of that, I would definitely do it.
So kind of being accessible and pouring into others.
I'm like a utility player right now. So I'm in everything.
Absolutely. So now I'll go to our chat question. So Iane Miranda is one of my DeVos classmates. And her question is, what has your current role at La Tech taught you about yourself?
That's a good question. I think this position definitely taught me that I have different, I'm more than what I think I am, if that makes sense. I've been pigeonholing myself to certain things, like I can only do this, I can only do this, but this has taught me that like I can be stretched, whether I like it or not, but I can be stretched into different avenues and I can be good at those things too. This definitely taught me just how to create relationships with different people and how to meet people where they are. I'm gonna keep saying that because it's important to create relationships with people, and genuine ones too. I don't like not genuine relationships. So creating those that are genuine, and yeah, that's all.
Okay, absolutely. So next we have a question from Brianna Vaughn. Knowing how much you've changed throughout your professional career, what are some things you would have told your younger self?
I would have told myself that, like, you can do it. I know a lot of people, that may seem cliche, like, you can do it, but ultimately, like, you can do it. Like, if you put your mind to it, like, you can do it. Talk to yourself nice, because I'm in my head often like, oh, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. This podcast definitely was like stretching me. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do well. And I was talking negative within myself, but speak life, speak positivity. Like, you can do it. You can do it. You got this. There's nothing that you can't do. Everything is learnable. Everything is teachable. Everybody's going around learning everything. Not everybody knows. You don't know everything, and you can't expect that. So you can do it.
Absolutely. I will say you have done well. I don't know if my word means much, but you have done well. And I think that I've done that also, just kind of giving myself grace. Now, I
Yes.
think a lot of us going into a new space, beginning a new program, these are new challenges being graduate students. So I think now I'm just reminding myself, Candace, give yourself grace. We're here because we're supposed to be here.
Yeah, yeah. You were designed for this. You got this.
Absolutely. All right. Next question is from Olivia Wiggins. She's also one of our own, also. She's D22. And her question is, what does your end goal / dream job look like?
Ooh, that is a very hard question because I truly don't know. I think this job is definitely giving me an outlet to see the department as a whole instead of just like one. But I do know I want to be in a higher position, if that makes sense, that I can like have autonomy over something and see like the fruits of my labor. But I couldn't tell you a title. I couldn't tell you where. I couldn't tell you. I'm a cop out on that one because I don't know. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. And my circle around me is like pushing me to find out too. But wherever life takes me is where it's going.
It's still unwritten.
Yep.
Okay. I think our next question is from Crystal Peterson. Knowing how demanding your current role is and you being young, can you talk about what you do to take care of you and make sure you show up as your best self to serve the department?
Ooh, yes. So I believe that you literally can't pour into others if you have nothing in you. Like you have to fill yourself up first. So I am a very it's very important to me to take like self-care Sundays. I've been doing it for a while now. I'm being disciplined on that. I don't have a lot of discipline on a lot of different things, but self-care Sundays are definitely a thing. Whether that's, and it doesn't even have to be like a whole day, whether that's like a spa time or making sure I like something that I do something that I like for myself, or whether that's painting. I'm creative, so like creating videos and blase. So just making sure that I do something for myself and it's not like work related. There needs to be a balance somewhere. So being intentional on my time and making sure that's my time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me make sure. I don't want to make sure I'm leaving any of them out. I believe that's our last Q&A question, and I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you. You did a great job, Candace.
Thanks.
Oh, I think we might have one
More slipped in.
Maybe. I think we're all, are we good? I think we're all good.
Hey.
Iane has another question. I'll take this for her, Candace.
Sounds good.
I think she's typing in the chat. We need like a drum roll for this.
Got you.
One second. This must be a long question.
Talk to me.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. From Iane, we have, what advice would you give to the you that was stressed out when looking for a job post-graduation?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think my advice is to not be picky, because in my job search, I was like, hey, I want to work at these places and I want to do this. But someone told me to like, this is a time that we should be saying yes to a lot of things. So me saying no definitely was like a detriment to me because I missed out on a whole lot of opportunities. So not being picky, but still having standards, knowing your worth is important, but like not being picky on the job. So like if it can benefit you in any way, I would say, hey, shoot your shot and try to do it. You'll learn on the job, even if it's something that you don't know, you'll learn it. Everything's teachable. So yeah, that's my advice. Don't be picky, but still have standards, and know your value.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. I know that's a question me and Olivia and Larissa are thinking about right now because yes. December is around the corner. So
looking for a job is definitely a full-time job. So be intentional on that too. So,
but I definitely think I will be taking your advice. So like your network is your net worth, because I feel like a lot of the opportunities I've gotten, even being in this program, is because of people I fostered relationships with when I was at Pitt, or doing good enough in one internship that like my supervisor's like, hey, you want to work on this? So
Yeah.
I think it's definitely important to focus on those things as well.
Definitely. I know someone told me, like, I don't like asking for help for most part. So they were like, these people are literally here championing you, like utilize them because you will do it for them. So utilize your board of directors, make sure you have people that you can fall back on, that has your best interests at heart. You don't have to go through life by yourself. So use people because you'll do it for them too. So not use them in the bad way, but like ensure that you're asking for help.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm sure everyone in the audience appreciated it, having you here, and you did a great job. Couldn't even tell, you did a great job. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was an awesome opportunity. Love this.
Of course. We're going to go ahead and close out then. So please tune in with us on September 23rd at 2 p.m. for episode 16. I will be speaking with Cheryl Wong, the Assistant Commissioner of Sports Management and Championships at the Pac-12 Conference. Also, please follow us on all social media platforms at Institute SSJ. And if you ever miss an episode, we have you covered. Also, we would like to say thank you for all of your support on Invisible Women in Sport. We are a nonprofit organization with other programs that impact various social justice issues. Please use the QR code to support us with a financial gift as we continue to change lives through the power of sport. Also, for our credits today, to our guest, Ashley Jocelyn, thank you again. Our producer, Garnett L. Overby III, our senior advising consultant, Matt Edelson, and our graduate assistants, Larissa Campello, Maya King, Candace Martin, Iane Miranda, and Olivia Wiggins. Just getting a mouthful. Thank you to everyone who has been supporting Invisible Women in Sport, and we hope that we continue to see you for the rest of the seasons and also for next year. If you would like to listen again, follow us on all social media platforms at Institute SSJ. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Viewers, we need your feedback to make Invisible Women in Sport the best it can be. Following today's episode, you will receive a short survey. Please complete and submit it to us. We have also still been getting inquiries about if we have any connections to internships. So if any of our supporting members have any internships, please reach out to Garnett Overby, our producer, at goverby@ucf.edu, so we can send them out to people reaching out to us. Again, please tune in on September 23rd, where I will be speaking with Cheryl Wong. Make sure to register, and thank you, and see us now. Bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.